good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. It's always a joy to be with him and hear Torah coming out of Jerusalem. It means so much to us. We're joined in the Zoom room by people from all over the planet. I was just chatting with Lisette, who's down in, I'm sorry. Where are you again, Lisette? Dominican Republic. Yes, Lisette's down in the Dominican Republic. Hot down there today. And, let's just jump right in. We got people from all over. We got Daniel down in Bogota, and we joined by Mr. and Mrs. Goldberg. We got our friends Anna in Norway, and many, many, many others. We got Peter from the UK and Travis down in Georgia, and many more. So let's just turn it over to Rabbi Goldberg and let him do his class. Rabbi Goldberg, good morning. So glad you put on these classes for us, and we're looking forward to hearing more Torah.
Good evening. For us, it's good evening. Good morning for all of those who are in the other side of the world. We in the side of the night already. It's okay. We are all together as one unit. This is one of the uniqueness of this class, that we can feel how we can become one big family with the same, I will say, ambitions, same ideas, same thoughts. Even though we have, each one of us have his uniqueness with himself, with his community, but still we have some sort of a main line of coming together. Hope everything is okay with all of you, with the coronavirus and everything else. By us, everything is more or less okay, hopefully.
Rabbi, can I ask you to pull your microphone a little closer? It just seems to be we're not getting a full feed.
Okay.
We're getting you, but it's just a little low.
Now you can hear me clear? It's okay?
Yes,
okay, excellent. So let's start. Let's dive inside. We in the middle of the Genesis. Come on, let me share the screen. In the middle of Genesis, we are trying to do some sort of a wish to pass on all the main things that we've learned. And this is where we learned those verses. We're not going to jump now. I think that this verse we spoke about a few times. וייצר אדוני אלוהים את האדם עפר מן האדמה, ויפח באפיו נשמת חיים, ויהי האדם לנפש חיה. Dan, if you can read the English version, please.
And the Lord God formed man of the dust from the ground, and he breathed into his nostrils the soul of life, and man became a living soul.
And we spoke a lot about this, I will say, double situation that man is inside. And we spoke also about the difference between the chapter 1, where the creation is being said that man came along at the end of the creation, while in chapter 2, everything is waiting for man. And man came mainly the first thing here, and everything was waiting for him. And I want all of us for a moment to try to look something in Psalms and to see those two point of view that we have already here in Psalms number 8, chapter 8, okay? And for that, I'm asking you, Dan, I'm asking you to read this. It's not a long one. It's only 10 verses. And let's look for a moment. And the question that I have to ask all of you, and it's an open discussion now, please. Don't be shy. Everybody can speak. It's okay. It's okay to say everything that is on your mind. I want you to see what exactly is how exactly David here in this Psalms is looking on men. Is he the most important thing in the world, or maybe he's the most smallest thing in the world? So please, Dan, read it carefully, verse by verse, and let's see exactly how are we looking about men in this world.
Verse 1, to the conductor on the Gittith, a song of David. O Lord, our master, how mighty is your name in all the earth, for which you should bestow your majesty upon the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings you have established strength because of your adversaries, in order to put an end to enemy and avenger. When I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established. What is man that you should remember him, and the Son of Man that you should be mindful of him?
Continue.
Yet you have made him slightly less than the angels, and you have crowned him with glory and majesty. You give him dominion over the work of your hands. You have placed everything beneath his feet, flocks and cattle, all of them, and also the beasts of the field, the birds of the sky and the fish of the sea. He traverses the ways of the seas. O Lord, our master, how mighty is your name in all the earth.
So my question is very simple again. How exactly David is speaking about men here? Please, everybody can feel comfortable to speak, to answer. Yes. What do you say?
Slightly less than the angels.
Where do you see that?
Verse 6.
Verse 6. This is the only way that David is speaking about the men here?
Well,
yes, people speak. Yes,
I believe it's Travis.
Yes,
I believe when we go back to the beginning and at the end, it speaks, and my thing is here, it speaks of the name of God. And when I go out into the Christian communities and the communities and I start to talk to them, and I ask, do you know the name of God? And the first word out of their mouth is Jesus. Well, we know that that's not our Father. And they don't know the name because they've never been given it and taught that in the Hebrew language. And so it talks about being less than the angels, but it's at the power of knowing the name and worshiping the Father and his name. And so I have a problem with not really a problem. I have a problem in the world not knowing, because if we're supposed to know it and discuss it and bring his goodness here, the largest community out there, they're apostate. They're worshiping the creation instead of the creator as we're commanded. So are we still slightly less than angels if we don't know and don't worship the Father?
So you're saying basically you're with Dan, and you're saying that man is a bit less than the angels, like you said in verse number 6, and slightly less than angels, if I will quote exactly. And you're saying, but if we are sinning, if we don't know, you don't understand exactly who is God, so are we in this level? This is your question. I understand correctly, Travis?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't want to answer this in this moment. I will answer this later on, but I want again to ask everybody, does everybody accept that this is how God is speaking about men here in this chapter of Psalms?
Yes, can I ask about what the Son of Man that's mentioned in verse 5?
Okay, you're starting to tickle something. Try to read maybe the first the verses 2 to 5, and then you will answer for yourself for a moment. Read it patiently.
Do you want me to read it?
You can read it loud, you can read it for yourself. It's okay. Whatever is more comfortable for you.
O Lord our Master, how mighty is your name in all the earth, for which you should bestow your majesty upon the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings, you have established strength because of your adversaries, in order to put an end to enemy and avenger. When I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you have established, what is man that you should remember him, and the Son of Man that you should be mindful of him?
And now please answer me. What exactly is he asking in verse number 5? He's referring to the verses 2, 3, and 4. And what is his conclusion?
I think, Rabbi, his conclusion is that we came from humble beginning, and yet God gave us, and he made us a little lower than an angel. I mean, in other verses, I remember David called himself a worm. It means we are nothing. We came from earth. We're humble.
Now, you're saying very nice things. You're saying very exact things. Very nice, Anna. And if you will look again at verse number 5, this is where it's reminding us this thing of the worm, of nothing. Okay? When I'm looking the Lord, the Almighty, about your name and the earth and everything else, which you should pass through. Okay, when I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and everything else, so I'm asking myself, who is man? Who is man that I should that God will remember him? Who is the son of man? Okay, Enosh. This is what is written down in the verse in Hebrew. Enosh is the son, grandson of man, that you should mindful him. So basically, what it says here in the beginning until verse number 5, that man is a very small thing, is nothing when you compare to everything that God did here. But even though in verse number 6, suddenly man is getting something very important here in this world. Suddenly he is slightly less than the angels. So we see here in this specific chapter how man is from one side nothing, and from the other side he is almost everything.
Yeah.
And those two sides that we see here in verse 5 and verse 6, those two sides basically are being shown in chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Genesis. In chapter 1, everything is being created, and at the end of the days, in the day 6, where God finished everything, then he remembered to do also a man. In chapter 2, we see something else. We see that everything is waiting for man, and till then, nothing is being grown, nothing is being done, because everything is waiting for man. So man is the most important here. So from one side, we need to be very humble. From the other side, we need to say to ourselves, by the end of the days, we are the only one who managed to achieve or to put our legs also on the moon and to do a lot of things in this world. So we are the only one who have the possibility. I'll say what's written down here. It's verse number 7. You gave him dominion over the work of your hands. We got the possibility of holding everything. And this is the difference between chapter 1 and chapter 2 in Genesis. We can see chapter 1 and 2 in Genesis till verse number 5, chapter 1, and from verse number 6 till the end, chapter number 2, where God suddenly is giving man a very important position here in this world. What is this important position? It's related to his brain and his will. So we'll speak about this later on in this lesson. I will how do you call it? Not Recklets. He's saying it in Recklets. You can say I will refer to your question to Havis, and you are right. When man doesn't really understand the name of God, or he doesn't really worship God in the right way, so I'm not really sure that he is on the level of slightly less than angels. Okay, because he's bringing himself to a very low level of behavior, like an animal. So he's a bit better than animal. We spoke about this last week, but the difference between men and 2 weeks also ago also we spoke about this. By the way, I don't see Tony here, and I gave him a paragraph of the Kuzari Rabbi Yehuda Halevi that is explaining that the difference between the understanding of the prophecy and the understanding of the logic. And why is the difference between those two? Because those who created, I will say, the logic that we have today, it's Aristotle, it's Plato, it's Rabbi Plato, and all of the big philosophers in the olden Greece that created all this philosophy mindset that we have today. They didn't have the right heritage that the Hebrew people had with the prophecy. And this is the difference between us and them. So it's written down very nice in the Kuzari. I think that there will be a time that we will learn also some parts of the Kuzari. This is one of the most important books that we have in the Hebrew tradition. And what we said here till now is written down in the Babylon Talmud in very two simple sentences. It's asking the Talmud Babylon, I will say it like that. If you will take a basketball, wherever you want to put it on your finger to twist it around your finger, you can do it, because every part, every point in the basketball is the main center of the basketball, because it's
a sphere. Yeah,
it's sphere. Yes, like that. And the same thing here The Babylon Talmud and the Mishnah already says that each person in this world is supposed to say that he is the main person in this world and all of the world is turning around him. Now, it's reasonable, we're looking at the globe also as a sphere. So each person, wherever he stands, all the globe is around him. Okay? And it's reasonable. But the Babylon Talmud is asking, okay, but why is it that man was created at the end of the days, only on day 6? And the answer is two answers, two contradiction answers. One answer is saying that everything will be prepared when he will arrive to this world. So he's the most important person in this world. And the other answer that it says that if he will be too much proud with himself, so the creation will tell him, listen, even the mosquito, the small mosquito that is really bothering us when we're going to sleep, even the mosquito was being created before you. So go down a bit, be a bit more humble. And those two sides that we see between chapter 1 and chapter 2, between verses 1 to 5 here in Psalms, and verse 6 to 8 to 10 here in Psalms, when on one side it says that what is man, you should remember him. Okay, and on the other side it says that the man is only slightly less than the angels, and you get in all this possibility of holding everything in this world under his hand. Those two sides are being basically mentioned in this small verse, where it says that God formed from one side man from dust of the ground, from the ground. So he is only, I will say, a very small part of this big nature. And on the other side, he gave him a living soul, something that is really different, with the possibility of knowledge and the possibility of free will. This is where he is a bit slightly less than the angels. Okay, now
Wow.
we're starting to understand what's happening here.
Can I ask a question, Rabbi?
You can always ask, yes.
Because you clarified a little bit there when you said possibility, but my question had to do with a change after the flood. After the flood, in Genesis chapter 9, verse 2, it says, "And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth." Now, the way I'm reading that is something changed after the flood that was not there at that time of Adam, because that fear and that dread was not there prior. Or it wouldn't necessarily need to be said. And the way I read that verse in chapter 9 is that it transitioned to where man would be apex, if you will, apex, whereas I transition or read that prior to the flood, there may have very well been apex predators. Like we still see sharks in the ocean today that, humans would never consider themselves, but we could capture them with boats and whatnot and things like that. But my point being that there is change and transition, and that's why I love how you said the possibility exists. And I think that there's something sound there. But there is this chapter 9 showing a transition in state that didn't exist prior?
Yes, you're right. In chapter 9, there is a difference. There is a transmission. And we will want to speak about this when we will be there. Okay, we're going to show the difference between chapter 1 and chapter 9. And there is a difference after the flood. And there was supposed to be a difference after the flood to bring the world, to educate the world in those 5,000 years. Okay, so we will become something that so we will be able to be mensch. We will be able to be a human being and to behave as human being. But we will speak about this more in a more profound way when we will come to this part. Let's continue on, please, if it's okay. On verse number 8 and 9 and 10 in our chapter, because we need to go on, to continue on with the things. And now I'm going to read the Hebrew, you're going to read the English, okay?
Excellent.
ויטע אדוני אלוהים גן בעדן מקדם, וישם שם את האדם אשר יצר. Please read the English.
And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden from the east, and he placed there the man whom he had formed.
So I'm looking here in this verse, and I understand that there is the garden is something in the middle. Listen good, look good, look carefully. In the Hebrew, it's really clear, but I will explain this also in the English. There is the Eden. There is the garden that God planted in Eden. And there is also, we know, the earth here. So the garden is something in between. You with me? Again, in the Hebrew, it's very clear. Gan be'eden. Okay? He planted a garden in Eden. Eden is one thing. I will say it like that. Eden, in Hebrew, the word Eden is the joyful, without any limitations. Garden already, in the garden, you're already putting some sort of limitations. You have, I saw, I think on Thursday or Friday, a very nice garden of Angelica. She had the garden of the flowers, right? You showed it to us on Facebook. It's very nice. I did a like. And on this garden, the garden is something that you have already fences around. So God created garden where he is a bit putting, in Hebrew it's even more with the play of the words, okay? The word gan, or what we call garden in English, is something that mugan, it's having a bit of a, that we guarding it, okay? Garden is from regarding it. We holding it that it will be preserved in the right way. So these Eden that without any limitations, the garden already have some sort of limitations, and in this world we have something else. So we have three conditions or three ways. Now, the garden is in the middle, where men already have the possibility or to go to Eden or to go to this world. Okay? Till here, everything is clear? Everything is clear. It's very simple, very clear and very simple. Let's continue on, because here, suddenly the... okay, let's read verse number 9. I will read the Hebrew and then you will read the English, okay? ויצמח אדוני אלוהים מן האדמה כל עץ נחמד למראה וטוב למאכל, ועץ החיים בתוך הגן, ועץ הדעת טוב ורע. Please read verse number 9.
And the Lord God caused to sprout from the ground every tree pleasant to see and good to eat, and the tree of life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
And we spoke about this already, I think, more than once, but we will say a few words. First of all, the word etz in Hebrew is from the word advice. Okay, the word etz is from the word advice, etzah. I need an advice. We know that there were kings, the Louis VII, I think, if I remember correctly, but not only him, that had that was took his counsel under the garden of the trees. Trees, you're putting the trees that you will have fruits, but also to have a bit of shadow, where you can sit down and have some ideas and some discussion with your friend, what to do next. And this is what's written down here. God is basically not bringing here only trees for that it will be very nice, as it's written down, but also it is giving something that is giving us knowledge, what to think, what to do. We spoke about this, that especially if you will see another few verses, I will jump for a moment because I want to go to those verses inside, that God is saying to us in verse number 16. Please read verse number 16.
And the Lord God commanded man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat.
So it's very interesting. We have here something that we have a commandment from God, and the first commandment from God is that we're supposed to eat. Now, I think that also the animals are eating, and everybody is eating, because if you want to live, you need to eat. But the animals are eating for living, but we are living for eating. Okay, so we need to explain that this eating is not only eating the food, but also acknowledging things inside ourselves. And this is what's written down already here, where God is saying that He planted all of those trees. So He basically planted all of the good knowledge in this world. Part of the knowledge is good and evil. Part of the knowledge is the knowledge of life, okay, the tree of life. And part of the knowledge is very, very pleasant to see and good to eat. There are three kinds of knowledge. We spoke about this. I won't go inside to this. I want to continue on. And it's very important to see something that is written down here and people don't really recognize or understand what's happening here in those verses. So let's read, please. Venahar, I'm reading verse number 10. Venahar יוצא מעדן להשקות את הגן, ומשם ייפרד והיה לארבעה ראשים. Please read.
And a river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it separated and became four heads.
We explained for a moment ago that we have Eden. Eden is more or less the world to come, without any limitations. Everything is very excellent there, very pleasant. The word Eden is very pleasant. Then we have the garden, and the river. The word river in Hebrew is Nahar, but it's also the word of lightness. Okay, it's the same word, Nahar and lightness. So if I want to fight, I think, Dan, you will recognize what I'm saying now. If I want to fight against the darkness, the only way of fighting against the darkness is what to do, Dan? Is to
shine
bring
light.
Shine light. Not all the time to fight the darkness. You need to shine the light. And this is the word Nahar. Nahar is the lightning. And the lightning is starting, the source of the lightning is starting from Eden. Something that is coming from very, very up higher low, from the main core of everything, that is the source of everything, Eden. And it's going through the garden. And from there, this is what's written down here, okay? From there, Misham, it was separated. Where? And became four heads. Where? In our world, I think. Okay? In our world, something that is unity up there, here we find it as four things. Remember that? It's very important. This is how the world is working. Here we have separation between things, but the source of everything is one. We spoke about this also, about men, Eve, Adam and Eve, and his children. Everybody came from Adam, even Eve came from Adam, and his children and everybody else, we all came from one person. The same thing here. The river, the lightness of this world is starting with one, even though here we have four. Let's see exactly who are those four things that's happening here. So the first one is in verse number 11. שם האחד פישון, הוא הסובב את כל ארץ החבילה, אשר שם הזהב.
The name of the one is Pishon. That is the one that encompasses all the land of Havilah, where there is gold.
וזהב הארץ, I'm reading verse number 12, וזהב הארץ איתו, שם הבדולח ואבן השוהם.
And the gold of that land is good. There is the crystal and the onyx stone.
Where is this side? It's written down already in Rashi. This is the Nile, okay, the river of Egypt.
Ooh.
This is the first one. So we're speaking about, basically, if I will try to find it exactly, this is what we call the White Nile. The part of the White Nile where it is, you can see it here, I put it in English so you can see it, all of you. As you can see, I think that you can see that, right? You can see my screen. The White Nile is where we find all the gold inside and the diamonds and all of those things. We can find it there in the White Nile. And we can find a very big, okay, you caught it, it's okay. We can find a very big culture that is being built from this side, from this river. And this culture is the old Egyptians culture, right? The Egypt culture. We know that till today, we are using part of the Egypt culture for building buildings, for understanding all the the stars and what's happening there. There's a lot of geometrics that we know from the olden Egyptians. This is the first, I will say, culture that is being mentioned in Genesis. Let's look to the second culture. בשם, in 13, בשם הנהר השני גיחון, הוא הסובב את כל ארץ כוש.
And the name of the second river is Gihon. That is the one that encompasses all the land of Cush.
Okay, Kush is where we know in the Afghanistan area. We have till today, by the way, some of the mountains that are being called in this thing. This is more or less is related to the, sorry, not to the Assyria, to the Babylon side. I think so, yes. This is the Babylon side. This is another very big culture that we know that came from and was related to this river. Okay, river is where it's lightning to us. Let's continue on. בשם הנהר השלישי חידקל הוא ההולך כתמת אשור. Okay, please read this. והנהר הוביט הוא פרת. Please read those two.
And the name of the third river is Tigris. That is the one that flows to the east of Assyria. And the fourth river, that is the Euphrates.
Okay, so we know the Assyria. Okay, Assyria. And we know also the part of, so we spoke about Assyria, we spoke about Babylon, we spoke about Egypt, and we're speaking about India. 4 main big cultures that are being mentioned here in these 4, I will say, rivers, 4 enlightenments. But what we see here, and this is very important to understand, each one of them took only part of the main river that started as one. Okay, we have the Nahar Yotzei Eden Ashkot Dagan. Okay, we have and the river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it separated and became 4 heads. So we have one thing that when it's going to this world, we have basically 4 different cultures. By the way, those 4 cultures will become later on also 4 big cultures in the middle time. And today we're speaking about 4 main cultures that are in heritage of those 4 cultures. And it's going like that. We're speaking about the Christian world, it's a big culture. The Muslim world is a big culture. Everything that is happening in the India side, India and China, it's a very big culture. And the Hebrew culture, we're speaking about 4 cultures. Okay. Now, if you will go, I have a very good friend, and once we came, I think in the last 3 years, I was 10 times in Lithuania. I gave their seminars 10 times. And one of the times he came with me, and he gave a special discussion for an hour and a half, and he explained how in the esoteric part of the main 4 cultures that I mentioned, okay, the Christian, the Muslims, the Indian, and the Hebrew culture, in the esoteric part, there are a few roots that are the same. And this is exactly what's written down here. V'nahar yotzei me'eden, there's one river, but then it's going back to 4 main cultures. Until here, I was clear, everything is okay. I think that we never spoke about this before, right, Dan?
No, sir.
The first time, okay? So we need to understand what's happening here. So here, it's something that was written down in bricklets. God wrote down here that we will understand what's happening here. And this is how the world is working. And we have those 4 main cultures, old cultures, becoming after that for 4 main empires that are ruling this world. And after that, it's becoming the 4 main cultures of today. And there is roots how everything is related to something else, but each one is taking part of it, except for the Hebrew people that is having something very unique. And the uniqueness of the Hebrew people, the Hebrew culture, is that it's managing to unite everything together. Okay, but this is something that we will speak when we will come to Abraham in chapter number 12. that will understand a bit the structure of this world. And from now on, I want to say another very important thing that will close the first part that we spoke about. Let's read for a moment. We're going back to the main story. ויקח, I'm reading verse number 15. ויקח אדוני אלוהים את האדם, ויניחהו בגן עדן לעובדה ולשמרה. Please read verse number 15.
Now the Lord God took the man, and he placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it.
I have a question. Please, now, it's very important. How can we take men? He took men. Please explain to me, how can we take men? How can God take men?
Yeah, I don't see it anywhere close to how you're seeing it, Rabbi, so I'm not going to comment.
Not a problem. Does someone have any comment? How can you take a man from one place to another place?
Rabbi, I think God created a man in this world and then took him to the Garden of Eden.
How did he took him?
He persuaded him. He persuaded man to go where it is good and to do what he said.
From where are you taking this, Travis?
Actually, I got it out of a Chumash.
So please read. So please.
But see, I'm with them. When I read it, it says took. I didn't understand that it was that God spoke the pleasant words, and see, it's in the commentary. So anyway,
excellent. Please read Rashi. Rashi, you see here in verse number 15. You see Rashi here. Please. What is Rashi saying?
He took him with pleasant words and enticed him to enter.
And you know why it is? It's very important to understand that. It's written down.
It gives man the choice to go in.
If you won't be able, I'll say it like that, if you won't be able to persuade man, to convince him to do this thing, so maybe you will manage to take his body, but you won't be able really to take man inside.
Okay.
One of the most important things that we need to understand with men is that you can take his body wherever you want to, but you can't take his mind unless you're convincing him to take part with you. This is very important to understand. And in Genesis, we see something like 6 or 7 times where it's written down that someone took someone else, okay? Sarah took Hagar, okay, and she convinced her to become the servant of Abraham. Okay, we have a few times. I can take you a few things. Pharaoh in Exodus, he's taking his army after the Hebrew people went away. So Vayikar et Amo, and also Rashi is commenting, he spoke with them that they will come with him. And it's very simple. Okay, I will give an example of something that I don't know if I showed it once, but I will show it in a moment, just a moment. We have a very, very unique person in the Hebrew tradition. His name is Natan Sharansky. I don't know if you see the book, Natan Sharansky, and he wrote down a very interesting book. Okay, this is it's hard to see that. Okay, here it is. Like that you can see. He is here with his wife, and it's a very thick book, very good book, very interesting book. And the book is he is explaining everything when he was in the jail of the Russian Soviet unit. Okay, it was the Soviet unit, yes, in the 80s. We still had, for those who remember that, we still had the big Russian, and the only crime that he did, that he wanted to go to Israel. He's a Jewish person, and they let out his wife, and they didn't let him to go out, and they hold him in prison for 7 years. 7 years. And mainly, one of the most important parts of this book is where he is explaining that they didn't manage to capture him in his soul, in his mind. He was very free in his mind. And he was laughing at them, and his prisoners, and his judge. He told them, He said, look, I'm a free person, or maybe you captured me inside a cave, but I have my own free understanding, my own free willingness. You as a judge, you don't have any freedom to decide what to do with me. They told you what to do, and this is what you need to do. So you are closed in a place, and I'm very free. And they got freaked with him. Okay. And this is one of the most important things to understand about man. When God is saying that he took, okay, the Lord's man, the Lord God, took the man, he didn't took him by forcing him, because then he took only the body side. And again, we're going back to the exact verse that we said here, verse number 7, with the difference, with the power that men have here in his abilities. On the side of the body, he is part of the nature, and from this side he is very small. On the side of the living soul, he is a very great person. He could be captured for 7 years, okay, and be free to live as a freedom person, even though those who are capturing him are closed in a world that they have no ability to decide for themselves what to do and not what to do. And we know exactly what happened there in Big Russian. By the way, I was 30 years ago. I was in Russia as an American, and the KGB was chasing me. It was very interesting. It's an interesting story. Once maybe I will say a few words about this. It was very interesting then. I did something there for the Hebrew people, of course. Can you imagine? And lately, when I was in Lithuania in the last few years, they took me to the NKVD. NKVD, it's before the part of the KGB of the Russian, to the NKVD inside, and they gave me a tour with an hour and a half tour to show to me, to explore in front of me how exactly the Russian worked in their ways to demolish people, to put them in the capture. It's an amazing thought how they're doing this and how they did it. With a very thick walls and everything else. So it was to close some sort of an angle between those two things. But this is something that we need to understand. The man is not only his body. His body is only the lowest side. This is where we're going back to the Psalms, what we spoke before. The body is the lowest side that we have. The main part of us is the side of the soul, the side of the freedom, the side of the thoughts, the side that we have the ability to do things and amazing things. And it's already written down also here. And then we're coming to the verse number 16, and this is what we spoke before, that suddenly we understand that the main part or the main mission of men in this world is not to eat for living, it's to live for eating. Okay? The main commandment of God is of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. So why are you living? Why are we living? We are living to eat. What's the meaning of eating? Eating is not only putting only orange juice inside our mouth and to say to ourselves, okay, now I can live for another few hours until I will need to eat something else. Eating is taking something and adjusting it inside our body so it's becoming part of our body. Now the part that we need to throw out, we're putting outside in the toilets, and the part that is very good, we stays in our body for a few years sometimes. So on the same thing, knowledge, it's the same thing. I'm acknowledging things, I understand things, and it's becoming part of me. This is why the ancient Greece philosophers said that only men who have a lot of knowledge will stay, after you will die here, you will stay alive. Now we're saying something else. It's not only learning the knowledge, but it's also getting connected with God. And the God knowledge is something that have limitation. Even though today we see that the knowledge is very wide and very broad, and you can have a lot of knowledge. But knowledge is still something that is limited. But to knowledge or to get connected with God, tree of life, get connected with God, source of life, this is already not trying to learn something, but to learn someone, to get connected with someone. And when when you have the knowledge of the tree of life, this is where you're managing to bring yourself to an endless abilities and endless knowledge. While if you're just trying to knowledge, so even though you'll be very smart, it's still very limited. And this is more or less what we're learning here. I think we spoke about this. I'm not going to go inside too much to this. But next time we will continue on with verses 18 and others about the, maybe I will say a few words about this, something about verse 18, okay, that suddenly where God is saying, it is not good. You see here, it is not good. So people usually are reading it as one verse. It is not good that man is alone. But let's read it in the right way. And I won't go inside too much to the how to read it in Hebrew, why we're reading it like that. First of all, God is saying, Lo tov, not good. It's not good. Why it's not good? The main reason why it's not good is because man is alone. And if man is alone, so everything here is worthless. Because the main person here who have the ability of learning and understanding things outside of him, but he doesn't have anything to relate from outside of him. So everything here is useless. Everything else is robots. And we need that man will come. So we will continue on about this next time. I've finished here what I have to say, and now it's a time for questions, discussions, other questions, whatever it is. I'm here. Let's continue on. Yes. I think I said enough for tonight. No doubt.
I have a question.
Yeah, feel
I
comfortable.
always have a question, Rabbi.
Feel comfortable. Feel comfortable.
Okay, we talk a lot about knowledge and wisdom, and it's all about the mind. Well, we pray each morning that the Father instill us with his knowledge and wisdom. And when we talk about the mind, is our connection like the connection between Shemaim and earth was Gan Eden? It was the choice point, I believe, is the way you kind of laid it out earlier. Is the luzbone that is in our head, is that the point where we would receive? Is that where our connection with the Father would be, seeing as it is indestructible?
I lost you a bit because in the beginning you said that Eden, the Garden of Eden, is more or less the main point between heaven and earth. And this is true. This is something that I said. I mentioned it before.
Yes, sir.
But I didn't understand exactly your question. Sorry. Please go explain a bit more your question.
Oh, what I was saying is, so you alluded to that Gan Eden was where he put man, and that's where we made our choice. Either we were going to elevate to Shemayim, to heaven, or we were going to choose earth. And apparently we chose knowledge, which was earth. So in our head, in our mind, that's where our knowledge is stored. And so when Father used those special words to entice us into the garden, well, we carry this luzbone in our head, right? L-U-Z. And is that the point where the Father connects with us? Because it's an indestructible bone, is what I understand. And I was just wondering if that's the place where we put our knowledge, or where we connect our knowledge and choose one direction or the other, whether we're going to be more animal or we're going to be more holy.
I will say it like that. You half right and half I see it a bit different. So I will say it like that. The Garden of Eden was a place where men had the possibility of going upper level to the Eden or downwards to the earth.
Oh, Eden.
And he chose the earth. This is true. Now you're starting to speak about the knowledge. But about the knowledge, I think that we spoke about this once. And, maybe I'll need to remind it again. I think that Terry explained it very nicely when we spoke about this also. He summarized it. The question is how you are approaching the thing of knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, you can approach it in the way that you want to get connected with God, tree of life, or you can approach it as a way that you want only to connect it as knowledge, and then it's also the tree of knowledge. And this is where it says, don't eat from the tree of knowledge before you're eating from the tree of life. What is the tree of life? Tree of life is the values, how to live this life. Let's take, for example, the COVID-19 that we have now. Most of the governments, except for the Sweden government, decided a very interesting choice. They decided that it's very important for them, the value of life. Therefore, they closed the country, even though people stopped working and they didn't have any more money, because the value of life was very more important for the countries than the value of money. Okay? Except for Sweden. Sweden said, no, everything will be open. We prefer the value of money and not the value of life. Okay? But so the question is, what values are leading your life? Okay? So the knowledge, we explained already once that the tree of life and the tree of knowledge are the same tree. Mm-hmm. We showed that in the verses. We showed it, I think, twice already in our lessons. And the tree of life and the tree of knowledge are the same tree. And the question is, what is your attitude regarding this knowledge? Okay. You can use this attitude. We can take the attitude of knowledge, or you can take this as an attitude of finding God and the values of God. You can take the physics. You can take the physics and learn it as the rules of nature, and you can't see any God inside, and everything is very knowledgeable, and it's very closed world, and you can see this as part of the way how God is building this world, and what are the values like that, and that you want to get connected with God. I think that I also expressed that I have a very interesting friend, a professor of physics in the United States, who wrote a full book from the physics about the Hebrew nation and how they did here in this world along the years. And he took the physics and he basically took this knowledge as more connected or connection with God. So how exactly is your approach? And this is one of the things that we saw also here. You can't take man and put him in some place and to feel comfortable that he's there unless you also, as you said, unless you're also convincing him, speaking with him and everything else. So the attitude that we have is giving everything inside to our actions. So God put man inside the Garden of Eden, and he had the possibility to decide to go up a level to the world to come, or to go to this world. His choice was to go to this world, and this is why we're all here. And when we will finish our mission here, we will manage to become to the world to come.
Oh, boy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of difficulty with this lesson, Rabbi. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm just trusting you as a learned rabbi. I do not see the connection with the Nile. It's just, I don't know where the transitional jump, like if there was a word in Hebrew that actually gave it a transitional jump for Rashi to say the Nile, because I've done some extensive research in that area based on a lot of tangible groundwork, and the four rivers, the two that are known. I mean, the Tigris and the Euphrates, we still know flows today, but there are clear tributaries that rushed into those that are no longer in existence, but they're still there in the bedrock. They're factually, you can find these trails and tributaries that were once riverbeds, and I just know that the Garden of Eden was a tangible, factual place that we know Adam and Eve came out of, and they went like Cain went eastward after that to the land of Nod. These are tangible, actual locales that I know a lot has changed since the flood. But what I love most is that you are sharing a spiritual message about this that is coming from Hebrew tradition, and I value that highly. I see Hashem as being in great control over every step along the way, and I'm thankful that you mentioned about the physics because you could just see it in a natural mindset and get no positive feedback, or you can see that Hashem rules it all. And yeah, but I am having difficulty with a couple of points here.
So first of all, thank you very much, Dan, that you're saying that you're sharing with us about those difficulties that you have, and it's okay, and it's fine. And I'm glad that after a year and a half, you're also not shy, and when you have difficulties, you're saying that. So thank you very much for that. Now, secondly, I want to say something more. I'll say more in the principle. Okay. The main thing that the Bible is saying in those verses is let's look less about the exact places that it was, and look more about the concept that it's bringing us. It's bringing us a concept that something that is one unit, okay, in the source is being broken down to 4 different parts in the reality of the world. And our sages are putting this related to big cultures that there were in the old ancients.
Sure, it's one way to look at it, yeah.
Okay, and now I won't go inside that where exactly. I agree with you. I think that we lost 2 of the rivers we lost since the flood. I agree with you physically. I truly agree with you. I think that almost everybody is speaking about this. Also in the Hebrew tradition, you can find that some of them are saying that we lost the 2 rivers. The word river,
and
the word
twisted.
river, yes, the word river in Hebrew is speaking about enlightenment. And
Right.
we're saying that there were 4 main enlightenment
Right,
in
it's
the
a unique angle I've never heard before.
in this world, but each one of them took only one twist of the main, we'll say, picture. Okay. For example, I will give an example. We have the Muslim world and the tradition of the Muslim. But if you will look at this good and carefully, you will see that they took and they hold it. They did very holy from one important thing. This is the what we call the din, the way of being very hard with
Yeah.
people who don't believe in God. They will burn them. They will slaughter them. They will do everything because but it's very hard way. Allahu Akbar, God is the Almighty, and those who don't believe in that are being called people
Infidels,
that
yeah.
we need infidels, and we need to kill them. Look at the other side. So they took only the side of the din, the side of the being very hard. Look at the Christian world. They took the Christian world took the side of the mercy, of the love. If you be smacked in one side, give the other side. I'm not speaking about that actually they didn't do this way, they didn't work in this way. I'm speaking about the principle. So they took only also again one main idea, okay? And they said this is the holy idea that we need to keep. When you're taking those 2, you can't be only with this or only with this. You need to have the right way how to combine those 2 to live right in this world. There are times that you need to take the mercy side. And there are times that you need to take the hard side. Okay, to take the mercy side, for example, for let's go to Argentina in the early 40s. Okay, where they had a lot of mercy for people who killed a lot of people in the Second World War, a lot of Nazis.
Right.
This is not really mercy. This is not mercy. This is being part of people who are killers. So you're saying it's a mercy? It's not. So this is a place or time that you need to say to yourself, this is not mercy, this is not right. But when you're looking on the cultures, you see that this one took this part and this one took this part. And you can see that one main principle up in the heaven broke down here to few different principles in the big cultures. And this is more what the sages of Israel, when they're reading those verses, what they're saying. They're saying that something that is holy and one unit in principle, when it's going down to this world, suddenly it's being broken down to four different slides, to four different parts.
Yeah, rivers.
And
Yeah.
we need to understand, yes, and it's giving food, it's giving enlightenment to a lot of people in this world. You can't ignore that. You can't say that it's not like that. Okay, there are a lot of people, as also Travis said, a lot of people who believe in Jesus yet. Still, a lot of people who are working very hard with the Muslim world. Okay, who believe in the Muslim world in this fine way that they're doing. So you can't ignore that we have here four enlightenment things. The question is how we're uniting all of them together. This is where Abraham is coming and the Hebrew people are coming. Again, we will learn this in chapter 12. But don't go on this only on the way of the practical side. Where are the rivers?
Yeah.
If you're looking on this way, you're right. Some of them we lost. We don't know exactly where they are. But the concept of the one thing that is being broken down here to giving enlightenment to four different ways, this is a concept that is running with us along history, not only in the old ancient, but also till today.
Well,
Okay?
yeah, you know, Rabbi, I so value the sheer fact that the oral transmission, the oral transmission has been preserved here. It's something that I don't think humanity would have any hope of guidance if it wasn't passed on from generation to generation. There's so much there, especially clues that I think 1,000 years from today, there'll still be things that people will be able to discover from these passages that are useful. And yeah, it's just exciting.
Hopefully. Okay, thanks. Yes, Timothy. Yes, good to see you. Yes.
Thank you. So I find this, I'm following you definitely because it's been a big blessing for my life. These things. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Again, it's not me. Yes.
Can I make a comment? As I understood what you're saying about not only taking one side, is it? Can we also refer this at the duality of this world, that you have a male and a female, and day and night, and this world and the world to come?
Yes, but it's a bit different because what you're saying, it's mainly the duality of two things all the time. And we're speaking about complex, much bigger complex. Okay. We're speaking about 10 things together, not two only, and the complex is a bit more profound than just two. But you're right that the world is all the time. You know, those two, day and night, men and women, and everything is black and white. It's true, but it's much deeper than that also.
Yes, Rabbi. And when you're talking about choosing the Christians choosing one side of basically nothing but kindness, and the Muslim side choosing the harshness of judgment, gevura, without blending, you get off and you go too far one way or the other. There's no way to reach that mediocre point of when you blend your hesed with gevura, kindness with justice, and you go in with charity, you can delve justice out and have everybody accept your word. Because if you go too far one way, like the first two millennia were kindness from Hashem, and man got off the track too far, and there was not enough punishment, and then he had to correct. And so now it's all about blending the attributes, right? Kindness with justice is basically, and that brings us into, if you understand the Hebrew, that's where it blends together, where you can have both.
Please, instead of me answering you, let's God say His words, and please read verses 18 and 19.
18. And Abraham will become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations of the world will be blessed in him. For I have known him because he commands his sons and his households after him that they should keep the way of the Lord to perform righteousness and justice, in order that the Lord bring upon Abraham that which he spoke concerning him.
Saying
Woo.
here, very, very simple, righteousness from one side and justice on the other side. As you said, it's also related a bit to what you, Anna, said, that we have only those two. Again, it's continuing more in the more depthness and more profound way. It's continuing on for 10 different things, not only two, but those two are the most important sides that we have. From one side, it's righteousness, and from the other side, it's justice. Kindness and justice, those are going together. It's tzedakah u'mishpat, what's written down in Hebrew, tzedakah u'mishpat, and we showed that before. And this is one of the main things, and this is why it's being the blessing to all of the others, to all of the world, because there's one, I will say, nation here that is bringing all of the parts together. You know what? There is also another very important midrash that maybe next time I will open with this midrash. Let me write it down for myself, and
awesome.
when we can see.
Well, Rabbi, didn't
I
Solomon?
I will open next time with this midrash, okay, that is explaining how we have, the midrash is expressing four different, I will say, values, very important values in this world, and exactly the debates between those values. Why not to create this man?
Mm-hmm.
Or why not to create, and everything else, all the debates, and what exactly God did, and how exactly this world is giving the answer, or how exactly in the Hebrew tradition we understand how we're giving the answer, how to work together with all of those things. It's related to the verse that we read in the beginning of this lesson. Just a moment, Peter. In the beginning of this lesson, we see that God created man. So I will bring this midrash and I will bring it in English, and we will learn it. We will see it from other. My father hopefully will help me to translate it in the right way. And we will see it we will see exactly how in other verses we are managing to combine, and we'll understand the thing of the blessings. Yes, Peter, you wanted to ask something.
Okay, yeah. Is the tree of life and the tree of knowledge separate, or is it that we gain the knowledge of the tree of life?
I said it already once. We learned it. I didn't went to this very deep inside. I have proof to show that tree of knowledge and tree of life are the same tree. And the question is how exactly you are approaching the knowledge. If you're approaching it in the side of knowledge, you're trying to learn what is in this world. So it's the tree of knowledge. If you're trying to find your way to God through this knowledge, so you're asking not what is in this thing, but who is God and how I'm going to get related to him. So you're managing to go to what we call in Hebrew Ein Sof, the infinite, with endless, because when I meet someone else, every person here in this room, he is more than just some of the knowledge that he have inside himself. He's much bigger, much greater than that. He's much greater than that. The connection between us is much greater than just the knowledge that we have one with each other.
Amen.
Yes.
So the tree has two possibilities, and it's whichever way we take that tree.
Exactly. The way that we approach this knowledge or this tree as a knowledge or as something that will bring us to get related with God, so it will be only limited as knowledge or unlimited, like the connection between two people that could be unlimited. Ask yourself, what is love? Okay, Every person who got married knows that love is something that you can't express with words, and it's much greater and bigger than just I love her because she has a nice nose, something like that. it's much bigger than that. Okay, and we can see that. By the way, we can see that. For example, okay, when someone can sit down next to his mother, okay, God forbid, we saw that lately in the TV. Okay, she's dying with coronavirus, and he's sitting behind the wall or something like that, and he's all the time. But she's, this is the body is nothing. But no, it's his mother. It's something else. So the connection between people is much deeper and much inside than just the knowledge that we are gathering in our head.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. That's so beautiful, Rabbi.
It's not beautiful, it's true. Whenever it's true, it's also beautiful.
Well, there you go. Now, Rabbi, I know that like Solomon said, there's a time and a place or a purpose for all things under heaven. And, the question of mercy and firmness, strict. I mean, there's a time for this, but we got to have some kind of elasticity between us as the tension. And more than that, we need to know how to function and when to be merciful, when to be firm in most situations. I love how the one prophet said, I think it was Isaiah, about the time will come, we'll know whether to the left or to the right, that this is the way, walk in it. And we can't get there without hearing Torah from Jerusalem, and it just means that much to me. So don't you have another class coming up shortly here, Rabbi?
I do, but let's give Lisette to ask a question, the last one for tonight, and we'll meet all of us together next week. Yes, Lisette.
Thank you very much. I have a question. When it says that man was put in the east and the tree of life was put in the middle, what does that exactly mean? Why say that it was in the east and the tree of life was in the middle? What is the concept behind that?
The concept is very simple. The main tree that is giving you the question in what approach you're going to use this knowledge, the main thing is the main part of the garden. All the rest is a lot of knowledge, but when you have the right attitude, and you took the right attitude in the beginning, in the main thing, this is where you can find yourself after that, managing with the rest of the knowledge.
Okay.
This is the main thing. As a person, as a man here, exactly. What is your main direction? What is your main values?
Thank you.
Not a problem. Okay, Netzach, we missed you. Maybe you can pop to say hello. I'm sorry because I need to close this thing.
All right.
On this stream, we have another lesson, and I have also with the bishop people. I'm going to speak with
Rabbi.
you
It's
also.
always a joy to have time with you, Rabbi. It means a lot to us. I know we're so glad that people from all over the planet get together to inquire, to hear, and hopefully we all begin to put it into practice. And I think there's something deep in today's lesson, Rabbi. I want to thank you for that. So tentatively, are we on for next week, Rabbi?
Yes, hopefully we're in for next week. Another word for Amos. Amos, right? This is your name, Stefan? Stefan Amos, what is exactly your name? We're preparing something very unique it's not only for you, it's for everybody, but I know that you are with this also. We're preparing something very unique. It will take us something like 2 weeks or something like that, about the virtual tours. And then we're going to have a series of 4 virtual tours on the way to Jerusalem in a very unique way. But I will explain to everybody and I will share it with you, and you will know that. And we will do also tours towards Jerusalem, at least in virtual, because you can't come to Israel now. Okay.
Awesome.
So
exciting that you're doing that, Rabbi. And, we pray blessings on Israel. And, so till next week, folks, we're going to sign out so Rabbi Goldberg can make his next class. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.